Okay, welcome back. Hope everyone had a great break. My name is Dr. Rachel Altoff. I'm the EDD program chair and one of the hosts for the conference. Up next, we have Dr. Shay Pursel here, and she is going to present Female Entrepreneurship and the Componential Theory of Creativity in Business. Dr. Shay Pursel is a Franklin University DBA graduate. Dr. Pursel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Altoff. It is my pleasure to be here. I was fortunate to present at the first DSA conference last year, but I, at that time, had not defended my dissertation and really had quite a long road ahead of me, even back then. So I wanted to just have a conversation. This PowerPoint presentation is my actual defense PowerPoint, but I'm going to flow through this more conversationally to allow some feedback at the end. So the title, as you can see, is Female Entrepreneurship and the Componential Theory of Creativity in Business. And I want to be clear that the use of the word creativity is to indicate a business resource. So we're looking at the dynamics of being a solo business owner and manager and how to use resources to profit and provide effective management. So you may be wondering, what's my why? Why did I choose this topic? And actually, it came down to a story. My grandmother started a business in my hometown back in 1980 called the Yarn Barn. And she was only in business for 2 years, while my grandfather was in business until he retired, just over 30 years. And I thought that was kind of a large discrepancy. And I wondered, what was my grandmother missing? She was doing exactly what I want to be doing. I want to be a successful female entrepreneur. So I thought it might be relevant in our day and age to research the definition of success as told through lived experiences of actually successful female entrepreneurs. I was challenged with using a foundational theory to inform my study, and through some resources with Franklin, I discovered a theory that it's an actual psychological theory, but I felt that it was a good indication of how the female entrepreneur manages her business. So there are components to the theory, and that is the word componential in short term is component. Those components are skills, processes, motivations, and social environment. So we're taking into account the idea of maybe social media, social networking, and how that impacts a female entrepreneur. Dr. Teresa Amabile invented that theory back in 1983. And changed and amended that theory in 2012 to include a sense of progress, meaningfulness, effect, and extrinsic motivation, not completely internally motivated, but motivated by an environment around us. So how does that apply to female entrepreneurship? We looked at a model that intersects the individual creativity of the female entrepreneur with her work environment or social environment to produce innovation. And this model is illustrated here by Dr. Amabile from an article in 2016. I think it's very relevant and helps to visually communicate the essence of the componential theory of creativity. So as you can see, if you are leaning on the concept that the female entrepreneur is the practice of this theory, you are looking at how the expertise, skills, and task motivation creates innovation through organizational motivation, the use of resources, and implementing her own management practices. My research question was, what are the lived experiences of successful female entrepreneurs? And I did have some pre-study thoughts that were almost in contrast to the study. I actually wasn't sure that female-owned businesses were successful. I knew they existed, but the statistics kind of showed that the female entrepreneurs in Ohio, for example, would start a lot of businesses, but may be lagging in success. Some of the scholarly terms that evolved from the literature review included the concept of the authentic female entrepreneur. Some of you may be familiar with multi-level marketing companies. I'm an advocate of multi-level marketing, but the study was not really about that. I termed it authentic female entrepreneur, meaning coming up with the idea and bringing that idea to action. So the authentic female entrepreneur is going to invent her brand, invent her business. And in taking note of the pandemic challenge, because I started the interviews in December of just last year, it was learned that the type of management that evolved was one of change. And through that pandemic, the female entrepreneur became a champion of that change. So just a few statements from the literature review that are relevant. I think the one that I most closely really concentrate on is that the Componential theory of creativity proclaims that with the use of the social environment, managed organizational tasks with creative effort results in innovation. So creative business effort results in innovation. And I will actually show examples of that. Something else too, authentic leaders. So I delve into authentic leadership is defined by the unique life stories. And those are the experiences that were shared. The methodology is qualitative. The interview questions were semi-structured. These 7 core questions were asked of each study participant. I interviewed 15 successful female entrepreneurs, and some of the themes that comprise these questions were around brand management, operations, but each of these questions was asked. The data was rich with information. I'm going to show you right here. The data was rich with information. I used atlas.ti to code 2,374 quotations. So not all of the data made it into the actual document. While it did become a large document, I think after revisions, it was 183 pages. There were themes that emerged that I concentrated on, and then post-doctorate, I'm concentrating on some of the other information. So just to retract here, I formed my own administrative and management process, and I hope this helps the Doctoral Student Association in managing actual interviews. For qualitative research, I kind of developed my own coding system to follow up and to get those consent forms in and talk with the administrative assistants and schedule an interview. So I thought that was an interesting process that I just wanted to share with you. Demographics were asked at the beginning of each interview, and I had some assumptions that were debunked. So I thought that there may be an employee or two for the female entrepreneurs. Actually, one of the entrepreneurs had as much as 1,200 employees at one time. That was interesting. The age ranges were from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s in age, and the years in business were from 2 years in business to 33 years in business. I think it is important to note that some of these female entrepreneurs own multiple businesses, and so they would ask me which business did they want to concentrate their answers about. And some people sold their businesses at one point and started new businesses. So I like to think of myself as a female entrepreneur, and I really, truly felt passionate about researching this cause to inspire others and also further my plight. So there is a variation of businesses, business types that I interviewed. Very interesting, financial services, social media presence, marketing, organizational development, costume design, social enterprise, a lot of different things. And some of these women had for-profit businesses and nonprofit businesses. So back to the themes, I'm just going to talk about the 10 themes. The 10 themes that really emerged from the data were the definition of success, pandemic challenges, entrepreneurial credibility, social networking, business investment, brand management, creativity, innovation, profit design, and authentic leadership. So for the definitions of success, I was fortunate to design some graphics to help with the visual communication of these ideas and concepts. And for the definitions of success, I could see in the age range of the generations of the study participants that at the beginning of their business, at a younger age, they would concentrate on themselves, on their business as a new startup. And as time went by, they would hire staff members and be more concerned about helping others and the benevolence of providing an income that's stable for their employees. So that was interesting. And the definition of success started out as achieving goals, having a good standard of living, and resulting into happiness, happy customers, no stress, serving a need, and just mostly helping. So the second theme is pandemic challenges. These women wore that badge as an honor that they progressed through the pandemic as profitable businesses. They had to think quick and pivot their skill set along with learning new skills and offering additional services, such as if they were a retail boutique, they would ship out the clothes to the paying customers. From the literature, I really gravitated toward this term, entrepreneurial credibility. There's not a lot about it actually in the literature, but it proved to be a strong theme. So there's this kind of attention to detail by these female entrepreneurs that in the old days, and when I say old days, I'm talking like 1980, not that old, that there was this kind of sense that they couldn't make more money than their parent, their dad, or they couldn't make more money than their husband, or they had to be concerned with childcare only. And there was just kind of a perception that a woman maybe wasn't a businesswoman. And actually it turned out that they could not have business bank accounts. So it is true, women could have bank accounts in their name in the 80s up to about 1990, but they could not have business accounts. And so they would have to get really scrappy with relationship building with a female banker to gain access to a possible credit card that they would deposit the money and then borrow from their own money in order to build up their credit. So actually, one of these female entrepreneurs, she did her own study on the disparity of dollars between male entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs, and she discovered there was a 78% disparity in revenue. That was just part of the story that she told. So I kind of, you can probably see, I kind of developed a little idea of academic art where I tried to conceptualize what I was seeing as findings in the qualitative information, but to put it in a visually stimulating way where you can almost remember what that application was. And so this particular one says, think big even when you're operating small. So the social networking component was really big. These women really like to refer business. They receive referred business, they stay in their lane, and they hire the experts to do those things, those functions. So essentially, they're CEO of a genre of business. And the organization that I pulled from is called the National Association of Women Business Owners. That was just kind of a random process, but it turned out to have some very willing participants in the study. I actually came up with a theme of business investment. So a lot of these female entrepreneurs, they spend time journaling, they block time to exercise every day, they take care of themselves. And then they invest a lot of money into professional mindset work. We learned about mindset work. You can actually pay someone to coach you with mindset work to make you more professional or more successful or more profitable. And those two components, the personal self-care and the professional investment, created an organizational life. And that's kind of the secret of this study. So we'll talk more. For brand management, there was a digital component that was key for these successful female entrepreneurs, especially during the pandemic. They used social media. They learned from each other about how to be better at social media. They trained each other. They mentored each other. One project software program that was very prevalent is called Asana. So if you've never, if you are managing a project and you want to look at a software, that is the one that they recommend. So they learned technology skills, website design, how to podcast, blog, email, how to campaign. And then they used social media engagement on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok, which was big during the pandemic. So the creativity is a business resource. These female entrepreneurs had to create management processes all their own, and they were quick to share what those processes were. The innovation really evolved from management processes of creativity. And one specifically I'm going to concentrate on is the costume designer. So the costume designer, she sold her business for $1.8 million. And she was in business for 33 years. She innovated products, management, service, and market. And profit design was the big thing, where there was a wealth creation. So you could go from small business to big business. And the turning point for that was at $800,000 to $1 million of sales per year. There were inner circles within the inner circle of referrals and friendship, largely mentorship, masterminding, and leadership. And I was very encouraged to discover that each and every one of these successful female entrepreneurs are benevolent. They are kind, they are innovative, encouraging, persistent, and driven. So what evolved from this study, which I think is going to be my life from here on forward, is the theory of female entrepreneurial design. Essentially, back to that graphic, it's personal self-care plus professional investment will create an organizational life. The female entrepreneur actually, through her money and time investment into her thoughts and actions, creates her own model of success, which is a brand image represented by her. There were some limitations in general, some management methods for success, and I just want to honor my dissertation committee. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pursel. Wonderful presentation. We do have some time for questions, comments. Any questions or comments for Dr. Pursel?
Yes, Jana is the program they recommend. I've never used it, but that's wonderful to know that it is excellent.
I just want to say, Shay, I realized my camera was off. I'm sorry. This great presentation, and I look forward to knowing how you're going to expand this, especially you mentioned multi-level marketing. I'd be interested in seeing how that would impact some of the research questions that you posed as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And Clyde Cameron Piat says, excellent work. And it looks like Crystal Smar may have a question.
Okay.
Hi, great research. What did you learn, and did the participants learn that some of the skill sets that they utilize in their business was probably not framed as a skill set because they were females for the larger community because of some type of bias?
That's a good question. My questions were geared more towards like defining success and attributing to what made them successful. I think that in the conversation around the pandemic challenge and how they overcame challenge by learning new skills, I think that the pandemic presented a blessing. It presented a situation where they had to be stronger than they were before the pandemic. And it also, I think, reinforced their belief system because they learned new skills. So I'm not sure that there was necessarily a bias as far as maybe like business operations in general, but the businesses were very kind of lifestyle design businesses. So they were very, they're kind of successful based on the skill set, and the skill set is ever changing. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that does.
Okay.
I was very interested in how sometimes the way that entrepreneurs, the success of a female entrepreneur is sometimes colored differently because it may look differently than the success of a male entrepreneur.
Yes. So for the female entrepreneur, the key result was that her success was not based entirely on the dollars, on the profit, but was based on the organizational life that she created. So she had the autonomy and the choice by taking all of the risk in an uncertain territory to choose herself and be who she wanted to be and pursue work in the field she wants to work in. So it wasn't just the businesses were not just hobby businesses, which I think is maybe a general bias, like you were asking. They're not hobby businesses. They are legitimate businesses that provide not only for the female entrepreneur, but for staff as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, LaTanya.
Yes, we have some notes in the chat. Thank you from Dr. Thomas, and absolutely great presentation and very relevant from LaTanya.
Thank you, Crystal, for the question.
Absolutely. Any last questions, comments for Dr. Pursel?
I just want, I'm sorry, I'm having such trouble with this voice of mine. I just want to say that I look forward to hopefully some more research from you on this particular issue. It is vital and important, so thank you.
Oh, thank you. I do plan to do some more work. One of the study participants, we connected, and she wants to talk on December 15th about a collaboration on a book of one of those inner circles. So I'm excited about that. And also I just signed with a self-publishing services company. So in the next 90 days, I'm going to write a book, and I will type this in the chat. I have invented a character. Her name is Ivy Oxley. And thank you, Tim. I invented a character that I am going to use as kind of my persona, kind of like who I aspire to be, to possibly do some chapter books for young adults, for girls aspiring to start their own businesses, but then also for sure to illustrate my new theory and help existing or aspiring female entrepreneurs in the adult range. So.
Wow, that's wonderful. It's a dissertation personified. So www.ivyoxley.com. That is IVYOXLEY.com. And let me echo what Dr. Raymond put in the chat. Well done, Dr. Pursel. Thank you so much for your presentation and participation in the conference.
Thank you.